right, so welcome back. We are on our next presentation. We're going to look at Softimage 2012 with the Subscription Advantage Pack. And we have Mark Schonagle, who is going to do his desperate best to draw in this next crowd.
Desperate
best.
Come on, crowd.
Come on in. Sit
I
down,
will give you $1 million when I die.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that even meant.
We will give select people
actually,
software
we will
for sitting
give
here.
Free copies of Sketchbook Pro. 2011 even.
Yes.
Right.
All right, sir.
All right.
Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Hey, cool, everybody. Welcome to the Autodesk booth for my last presentation of the day. This is the Softimage demonstration. So what we're going to look at is some awesome customer work by both La Fourmi in Germany and also from SciOp out of New York. And this is the La Fourmi piece, or a section of it at least. Going to show you all the new features, or some of them at least, inside a Softimage 2012 SAP, as Sean was saying, the Subscription Advantage Pack. And I'm also going to show you how we can do real motion capture using a simple little Kinect from Microsoft for the Xbox. So to start off, I'm going to talk about this awesome commercial that my friends in Germany, La Fourmi, they put this together, and this is just an awesome commercial. It was done entirely with Softimage, all the 3D with Softimage, and it has some just amazing effects done with ICE. So if you're unfamiliar with ICE, ICE is the node-based visual programming and effects system found within Softimage. This is an effect. This is a shot that was done with it. This is some dandelions being, some dandelions made out of car pistons, Subaru car pistons to be exact, all fluttering around until someone goes whoo and blows them away, and you can see how they fly like so. All of this is created with ICE. For those of you that aren't familiar with ICE, ICE is, as I mentioned, the interactive creative environment, the node-based programming language, and all of these nodes here is what created the effect that we see above, just stringing those nodes together. There's actually a lot of cool stuff going on in this shot. So without further ado, I'm actually going to play the commercial, show off what this whole thing looks like, and then we'll take a look at how the scenes were actually put together. So here is the spot, where to go. Here it is. Check this out. Got some good volume. Good. So every single object in this commercial is a car part from a Subaru car. The whole city is made up of engine blocks and exhaust pits and transmission parts and radiators, wheel lugs, nuts, and nut. All the positioning of, well, not all the positioning, but positioning of a lot of these elements is all just done through ICE. Instead of manually putting in there, they're put in procedurally. This road is created with ICE. Here's the awesome dandelions. Wispy. This is an awesome waterfall scene. All Softimage ICE. Well, everything's ICE. All those are placed procedurally using ICE nodes as well. This is great. Flowers opening up, door handles, exhaust bits back there, penguins. One of my favorite shots technically is coming up. You'll see the ocean, but the ocean's represented by a bunch of small grids or cards that are moving. Just the technology and the thought to do that is incredible. It's all done again with ICE, but you'll see here in just a second. All those collisions, simple ICE stuff. That is just spot on. Awesome. There it is from a long shot. Those the feathers are all made of windshield wipers, and the bird is actually a seat folded open. This shot is crazy. Really cool stuff. This whole city, every part of that is a chunk of that car. A lot of this was rendered in one pass. This is all rendered with the Arnold rendering engine, which is coming soon for Softimage, for the guys at Solid Angle. Brilliant renderer, brilliant spot. Thanks to Subaru and thanks to La Fourmi for hooking me up with all the assets for that. So let's just go back into Soft for just a second and take a look at a little bit more of this spot. So I mentioned the whole thing, all those dandelions, the way the whole the wind, the way it's all affecting those components. It's all controlled through this ICE node. Now, I don't have time to go through this completely, but one of the nice things with ICE is you can break you can break the whole graph into sections, and you can label things nicely. So like this whole area here that's in this one box, this is handling the emission of the particles, which are then turned into the pistons. Here we have the Wackeln vor dem Ablosen und Windkraft, which, using my stellar German skills, I can tell you is the wiggling before they release, and all the wind technology that's in there. All the forces that are in here. In a lot of these nodes, I mean, you want to put drag on a particle, just drag the drag node in. Setting things like the velocity, you're just using these nodes, plugging these things together. I'll build a little thing from scratch here in a little bit when I show you some dynamics, but this, again, this is all the technology that was used to, the logic rather, to create the shot of these little pistons flying off like dandelions. So again, these are all particles, and every one of these particles is just being represented at the moment by a piston. If I were to go in just, here, let's go here and open this up, frame this guy. Every one of these has a particle display property. So what I could do is say, instead of viewing these as a piston, let's take a look at this as a cylinder. And one of those clumps will then turn into cylinder. You can see we have a few different shots on there. So that just increases the performance a bit. It's not having to draw all that complicated geometry. So when you're doing these effects, you can sometimes work low, bump up the resolution at render time, and there you go. So that's one of the shots. They actually gave me pretty much every shot of the commercial, but I just don't have time to go through them all. Here's another one. This is that waterfall shot we've seen. Scrub the timeline here. Just crazy amounts of detail that I believe that's part of the engine of the transmission behind it. The heat sinks are kind of a giveaway, but scrub this. There's our waterfall falling. And again, these are all being represented by spheres right now, but if I were to select any one of those, there's a couple clouds in there. If I were to select that cloud and just go over here and go to the particle display, let's turn these into from gears, or from spheres to automatic, which is going to show them as a gear. And now you can see all those little, well, not all of them, but a lot of the spheres have been replaced now with a gear or a bearing, whatever that might be. If we switch cameras really quick, I thought this was funny when I was looking at the shot. I switched to this camera and thought, okay, well, here's a part. It's obviously got a fair bit of complexity. It must be a fairly crucial part to the scene. And then I started zooming out and zooming out and zooming out some more and went, holy crap, really? Look at that. That little thing is just sort of there. That's actually part of the waterfall. That's one of the elements that's falling from the waterfall, and a piece of instance geometries. And then I can go up here and just say, turn back on my 3D or my point cloud, and we'll see the waterfall. It's being emitted from a hidden object here. And then again, just scrub the timeline, and we can see all that flowing. Again, rendered in Arnold. This whole waterfall scene, same thing like we saw with the dandelions, all created with ice. If I were to select that guy, where is it at? Let's just grab this, and we can look at the ice tree for that as well. Actually, you know what? Let me move along. I'm going to close this guy up. Let's completely switch gears. That was a little bit of customer work. Let me show you some of the new features that are in the next release of Softimage, and then we'll look at another customer piece and also show you the Connect stuff. So, oh, you know what? I actually wanted to mention one thing too. If you go to where is it at here? Check out La Fourmi's website. Some really good stuff on there. You can check out a whole making of for the Subaru ad. If you click on projects, there's a making of. I think our website's a little, or our internet access here in the convention hall is a little slow, but otherwise I would load up. Anyway, some good breaking up, some good making ofs of that commercial if you're interested in that too. So that's cool. This here, so kind of a simple model here. I just want to show you some of the new modeling tools we have for this release. This is the yet to be released, or yet to be released 2012 Subscription Advantage Pack. So a lot of these are just productivity enhancements in the new build. So some things like selecting ring loops that used to be a little bit challenging, or you have to kind of do your fingers in a little spaghetti pose before. Now all you need to do is select the first polygon, hold down shift, and then double click the second polygon in that row, and it'll select the loop. And you can continue to do that in either direction. So click that way, click the next two, click the next two, like so. So just easy ways of making selection. Edge loops, also easy to select. Just simply double click on any edge loop and it'll select it. If you hold down shift, it'll add multiple edge loops like we see here. Again, just stuff to make your life a little bit easier. Always good. Another selection tool, selecting polygon islands. If you have an object, a single mesh that's made up of more than one polygon island like we have here, you can see this is two separate objects in a sense, but when you select it, it's really only one object. They've been merged together, but now you can easily select the polygon island simply by double-clicking on any polygon. So that's good. Again, just stuff to make your workflow a bit better, a little faster. This is a good one too. If you notice when I'm rolling the mouse wheel and I'm zooming on my cursor, so wherever I place my mouse, we're now going to zoom in on that location. That's actually a preference for those Softimage users out there. What you want to do is go into your preferences and click on Tools, go into your camera setting, and there they are under Pan and Zoom and Mouse Wheel. You'll want to turn these two checkboxes on. That's going to give you that nice zoom on your mouse wheel, so that's good. Let's see, some other good tools in here. Just going to go and pop a hole in the boat, make it sink. And not really make it sink, but this obviously did put a hole in there. So we have a nice capping tool to fix this, and what I'll do is just say modify polymesh. There's all of our modeling tools. Softimage, of course, has a very powerful modeler. I'm just going to show off the new tools, and to do a cap, you just simply pick on any one of the vertices that is part of the open hole, and that will automatically, boink, cap it like that. So there you go. So now I've got a nice cap on that hole. The whole top of the boat here is open as well. So I could cap that, and what's neat here about the whole capping system, if I open up my construction history, the cap hole is an operator, and that operator has a dialog box. Here's the dialog box for it. When I picked the vertice on here, I actually picked vertice number 212 on this mesh. Every single mesh in a 3D environment has a vertice number, so if I pick that mesh, or that vertice, it's vertice number 456. This one here is 432. Well, if I come over here and get rid of 213 and replace it with 432, now we're going to cap the top of the boat, and it'll uncap that. So you can see you can really change that around however you want that to work. You're just basically putting in one vertice, and it's going to take care of the rest of that cap for you. So good stuff. I mentioned the construction history. Everything you do in Softimage gets logged, and you can also delete anything that you happen to do. So if I delete the cap, we get our boat right back to the way it was. Another cool tool in here is thickness. So I could say modify polymesh, and I want to put some thickness on here, apply thickness, and that'll apply the thickness operator. There we go. And if I slide this slider up a bit, this will make this thicker or less thick. And for some reason, it's been a little bit sluggish here at the show. I don't know why, but that's okay. But this is a great tool because now our boat actually has some thickness to it. And to model that, that's actually a pretty, I wouldn't say it's super challenging, but to make a model thick can be a little bit time consuming. So now having a nice operator to do it is great. And we can put bevels on there. We can add some subdivisions, a bevel ratio. You can get that bevel exactly the way you want it. So some good stuff there. And let me get rid of the subdivisions so that my next little tool works properly. Here's a tool that all Softimage users will be very happy with because it's one that just, it's kind of been lacking that we wish we had all these time, and that's going to be the extrude on a normal. So extrude on a normal will do just that. It pulls it out only in the normal direction. But you'll notice now, because I did the thickness, I picked now this top edge here. So one of the great things about the Softimage architecture is that you can always reorder your operator stack. So by reordering it, now the thickness comes after the bevel or after the extrusion. So now I can extrude that normal exactly the way I want it, like so. So some good stuff there. Let's see. There's a bunch of new primitives I can hide. I can show you. We have a whole virtual army of characters, which I guess is nice to have. So if you want to start getting, start animating a Jurassic dinosaur lizard movie, there you go. We got all the primitives. Just nice to be able to throw those things in your scene when you need them, which is good. Let's go ahead and hide those. Actually, before I hide those, let me show you another new tool which is in here. We now have the ability to rotate edges, which is just another one of those things about the extrude along a normal and the rotate edges. Probably two things we should have had in here a long time ago, but just being able to spin an edges around is quite nice, like so. And another nice thing is all of the modeling tools that I've talked about so far are using ice nodes. We're using the ice modeling technology that we released with the last release to actually build these tools. So we're now putting our money where our mouth is. When we build a tool, we're using our own ice technology to do it. So this is the thickness node. If you want to go in there and see exactly what we're doing under the hood, there it all is. And you can actually rebuild this yourself if you want, rewire it, rehook it up, because pretty much all ice nodes are pretty much open source. So you can get in there and see exactly what we're doing. There's one other neat tool which I forgot to mention, which is slice between two edges, or a smooth, actually, I'm not going to show that one. Let me show you the smoothing, where is it at here? Modify, add smooth edge loop. So by going like this, I can actually add an edge loop that smooths out the existing corner. So for instance here, if I click it, see how that final edge up here is actually being distorted and displaced a little bit or deformed? That's because I have a checkbox on that says preserve mesh curvature. If I turn that off, now I'm inserting an edge, and you can see that's rock solid. Do it again here, and now I'm actually adding a bit of curvature to that. Again, that's one created using ice. So if I were to go back into ice, and we select our split edge. Oh, no, actually, you know what? That one's not created doing ice. What am I talking about? No, that's not an ice node. That's a standard tool. Anyway, all right, well, that's some of the new stuff inside of Soft. I want to show you one other thing, which is bullet physics. I got a fairly humorous way of showing you that using, this is Chinny's arc, our good old product manager. He decided to build an arc of animals. So there's Chinny manning the arc, and we have this little cloud up ahead that's going to rain some characters on them. So I'm going to use that to show off bullet physics. So with the cloud selected, I'm simply going to go ice, create, and I'm going to do a basic emission. If I do rigid bodies, it's going to wire all this up automatically for me, but I want to show you how we wire this up from scratch. So I'm just going to do a basic emission, press play, and you can see that we have a bunch of particles coming out in a fairly, well, just sort of coming out in the normal direction of the sphere. I want to make these particles rain downwards, so I'm going to have it use a directional vector. 1 and y is up, -1 and y would be down, and so now we're going to be raining some particles. I want a lot less particles because I did a rolly wheel on my z-axis. Let me undo that. Okay, so. I don't want nearly this many particles because all these are going to be attached to geometry. That's going to be way too many. So I'm going to bump this down to maybe something like 10 or 15. And I'm also going to change my representation for just the moment to a cone, and I'll increase the size to like 0.6. So now we're raining a bunch of cones, and they're just sort of passing right through the boat. There's no collisions going on. And we're actually not even using rigid bodies at the moment. When you set up a particle simulation, there is a node in here called Simulate Particles. That node's really important. Without it, the particles don't move. So there's actually several different ways of simulating your particles. If I type in Simulate, you can see we've got a few of them here. We got Simulate Particles, but then we also have Simulate Rigid Bodies and Simulate Bullet Rigid Bodies. This is from previous versions of Softimage, the Simulate Rigid Bodies. This uses NVIDIA's PhysX technology, which is great. But now we have bullet physics, which is just another solver. So I'm going to plug this in. And bullet physics gives us one nice, great advantage, and that allows us to use convex hulls and actual shape together. So right now we got bullet physics going on. I haven't told it to collide with anything, so I'm going to select the boat, and I'm just going to drag in the boat. This node here, Chinny's arc, that represents the name of the boat. So I'm just going to plug that into my geometry here, which is the obstacle. And now suddenly those guys are going to start bouncing off the boat. But if you look, it's completely wrong. They're bouncing off the top of the boat. They're not going in the boat at all. And the reason for that is there's a checkbox in here that allows me to use actual shape. Whenever you're doing physics engine or physics, it'll take a bit longer if you use actual shape to complete the effect. So a lot of times using things like bounding boxes, convex hull, things like that just make your simulation time a bit faster. All right, so we're filling up the boat. Things are good. But we're not bouncing off the roof. We've only got the particles colliding with the boat. So I wanted to also be affected by these two guys. So I've created a group, and the group is called Collisions. I'm going to drag this group in and replace the Chinny's arc with the group. And the group has Chinny's arc and also the boat and the roof and the little main part of the house there. If I move this, you can see it's very interactive. I can move those around, scale that up, or do what I want to do. But I've been telling you I want to make it rain animals. So the way we'll do that is to replace the geometry of these particles with something different. And we'll replace it with the instance shape node. So I'm going to type the word instance, and I'm just going to grab the instance shape node. I'm going to plug that into the shape input of my particle emitter, pink dot to pink dot. Double click on my shape instance, and now I just need to pick what it is I want it to rain. So I have all these different meshes, those primitives I showed you, the bull, the fish, the horse, the lizard. So I'm just going to tell it I want it to rain, how about rain some fish? And then suddenly it's just going to swap that to fish, and they're now going to use bullet physics to move around. The great thing about bullet, though, is that we can now change the actual particle collision type to a convex hull. So now we have convex hull working in conjunction with the actual shape, so you get a very nice, very accurate collision. And I can change this from the fish to, any of them. I can make it rain bulls, because, that's just how it works. If I take the whole group and select the group, now I've got a slider that will allow me to pick which index it is. Each index represents a different character. So 1 is the fish, 2 is the lizard. So you can see we've got a bunch of different, I don't know what's going on here. This is ridiculous. Let's just do a random real quick. We'll get a randomized by value. And I will put a random value on the index. And I'll make it a random value from like 0 to 4. And that should make it pretty much rain all 4 of our different geometry types. Again, using actual shape collision, no penetrations, they're not falling through the boat. Everything's good. And you know what? If we really, really wanted to be silly, we could make it rain. Hang on, let's disconnect this. Make it rain. If I pick that guy, we can make it rain chinnies. It's raining men. Hallelujah. Okay, enough. We're done with that. That's corny and stupid. Okay, so that's some of the new features. That's bullet physics. Very good stuff. Let's move on to some other cool stuff. I want to show you motion capture with the Kinect, so I'm going to do that next. And then I want to show you an awesome bird feather rig that my friends at PsyOp hooked me up with. So really quick, here comes the Kinect portion of my demo. So there is a great little plugin, and I just launched After Effects. Awesome. There's a great little plugin that I'm going to fire up. Where is it at here? I guess we're going to launch After Effects. No, I don't want the trial. No, I don't want any trial. I'm done. Yes, just go away. We're all done. Okay. So let's see. I got this guy right here, this website. So I was poking around a few days before the show started, and I found this great little utility. It's called KinemOCap. Go to kinemocap.com. It's going to cost you 100 euros, and you'll have to buy a Kinect. But watch what you can do with this tool. All you have to do to get this thing started, we started After Effects, so we're going to leave After Effects. I'm going to go up here and just go into my KinemOCap directory, and I'm going to launch this standalone, sort of like a DOS, not DOS, but it's like a little standalone application, which is going to trigger my mocap. And here we go. Now I need my lovely assistant, Vanna White, Mr. Sean Hendricks, Mr. Sean Hendricks, Mr. Sean Hendricks, Mr. Sean Hendricks, Sean Hendricks. Hey, Sean Hendricks, I need you. You're on. You're a terrible Vanna White. Do-do-do-do. So I get my lovely assistant to do that. Step forward just a little bit so we get your other arm. There we go. As soon as he does that, his markers come up, and that's all good. Now I can go into soft, and I'm going to you can stop, you can do what you want to do now. So you're good. So watch this. All I have to do to hook this thing up is, I should have done this first, but that's okay. I need to set up a synoptic view. So I'm going to go into Property Synoptic. Synoptic is a neat thing that we have in Softimage that allows you to use web pages, HTML pages, as control objects or selecting objects. So this is actually a little mini web page that the guys at KinemOCap give you. And all I need to do to get it to start mocap is load up the plugin. With that, click on that guy, and then click Skeleton Tree Create. And if you look down here at the bottom, it's running a script that's going to create a rig for me. And it's almost done, almost done. Little wheelie, almost done. Come on, give me your business. There we go. Back this thing up. Press, let me go to like 1,000 frames, whatever. Press play, and there's Sean. You don't even have to do that. Just dance around. Wave to the crowd. Say hi. How cool is that? It's $100. Well, like $200 when you include the hardware. Yeah. It's a good thing I don't have a muscle system on there. I'd give you like little wussy system. Anyway, that can be plugged into a rig. This is all capturing F-curves. The light's a bit wrong in here. We get a little bit of jittery. In my house, it was spot on accurate. It was incredible. So good stuff. Super cheap motion capture system. All that can be piped into the animation mixer. You can clean up your mocap in there. You can bring it into Motion Builder if you have the suite. All good stuff. So wave goodbye, and you can go back to your conversation. Thank you, Mr. Vanna White. All right. Last thing to show. And I'm going to remember to turn this guy off. There we go. Oh, we've got him walking away. Nice. Cool. Anyway, all right. So the last thing I want to show you is a sweet bird feather rig, which my friends at PsyOp, Jonah Friedman, gave me. And I just want to show you another quick little website. If you're interested in this, Jonah has done a great job of setting up a Vimeo video showing exactly how this bird feather rig is going to work. So I'm going to show it here to you in soft. I definitely won't do it the same justice that the creator does. So go to Jonah Friedman. It's FRIED.com, Friedman.com. And also go to PsyOp's website. PsyOp is PSYOP.tv. One of my favorite places to go visit. They're in New York City. Just some of the most awesome commercials in the world come out of PsyOp. So check out their websites, Jonah and PsyOp. And I'm going to now show off some of Jonah's work. And that's this sweet bird feather rig. So I'm going to start off by turning on the feathers, like so. And I'm going to turn off what Jonah calls the information cloud, which uses ice strands to just kind of give us a little helper as to where those feathers are going to lie. Now, this is a really heavy scene. There's a crazy number of particles on here that are generating the feather rig. But just look how beautiful and how awesomely those feathers are flowing over the surface. When you see this thing animate, I don't actually have a rendering of it, but I've seen it. It looks pretty darn impressive. So what I'm going to show you is how you do this on a lower resolution object like a sphere, and just show you some of the grooming tools that Jonah's built into his rig. But essentially, you start off with your geometry. You put these little guide feathers on it, and it automatically populates the high-res version. So let me load up a little more basic version, which is a little more efficient for instructional purposes. And we'll show this guy off in the next 8 minutes. So here we go. So there's our bird feather rig, same like we had before. And I'm just going to press play real quick, or scrub the timeline, whichever, and just check out how awesomely that thing moves. I mean, does that not look like a real set of bird feathers? For sure. There's some really great things going on here, like this area here. Notice we're not getting any penetrations of the feathers. They're all sliding over top of one another. That's all nice logic that's built into this rig. So the way it works, the way you populate this thing is as follows. You start off with your geometry. In this case, we're using a sphere, but again, you could use a bird. I'm actually populating a dog and the next thing, which is kind of funny, but you create these, you just duplicate these feathers. You start off with one of these feathers, and you duplicate it, and move it to a different area on the bird or on your sphere, whatever you're building, and that then creates an area of feathers that's going to look and behave like the one you just created. So if I scale this up, you can see now on that side of the bird, we have this one area with a lot of feathers. And then over here, we get into an area with a few feathers. So this allows you to really easily set the initial groom up of where you want your feathers to be. It also handles the rotation, so I can rotate those feathers as well, which is great. And you'll notice that when I do that, we're getting weight, we're getting fall off around the entire bird rig, or the entire feather rig. Even the feathers on the top and on the complete opposite side are getting a little bit of motion. And that's really key, because this thing is weighted so that every feather influences the whole rig. And that's all adjustable with a dial. So you could go here to this guide feather controller, and you can change how much weight that thing is influencing on. So it's less weight, you're going to get a smaller area of where that feather is going to affect the rest of the rig. And as I get into real small numbers, you'll see that now only that local area of feathers is moving. I'm no longer getting that broad distortion on the wings, on the feathers. So let's go ahead, close that down. Let's actually just delete that one. Show you a few other things in here which I find pretty sweet. If we select the point cloud, now remember, these are all particles. Every one of these feathers is a particle that has an instance of a geometry attached to it. So there's two pieces of geometry, two pieces of real feather that we have. One of them is the dark blue, and one of them is the light blue. And those are actually controllable as well. So for instance, if I select these three feathers, and I open up their display page right here, I can control with this slider what instance they're using. Are they using the bird color blue, or are they using the white color? And I could have 50 feathers. I could have 25 different colors, different lengths or sizes, whatever, different shapes. But you can see I can control with these three feathers selected, I'm controlling their distribution over here. And then there's also this nice little slider which allows me to add some noise, add some randomness to it, so it's a little bit more organic, less, it doesn't have quite such a hard cutoff when you switch from the different feather type. So that's another cool thing. Probably, though, my favorite thing about this rig is watching it regenerate when we modify the scaling of the rig. So watch this. We're going to put a property attribute display. I want to show the number of particles. So I'm going to use an attribute display for number of points. So right now, this bird feather rig has 1,424 points to it, or feathers on the rig. If I go and grab my controller here, let's go get the ruffle feathers control system. If I change the scaling of, say, this bird feather, if I scale it wide, look at all these feathers right there. They're really wide, but now they're all colliding with one another. So that's no good. If I scale them smaller, well, now they don't collide with one another. Now we got a big hole in there, especially when we get into, really mini guys like that. So that's not good either. So watch this. If you click on regenerate point cloud, it does something completely different. It actually repopulates, it rebuilds the bird feather every time the scale changes. So now if you watch these numbers right there, that's the number of feathers. As I make bigger feathers, we don't need nearly as many of them there. So now we're only building a total of 867 feathers for the whole rig. If I scale this back in, now we're getting into the thousands, and you can see this is much more dense, but it's very believable. There's no interpenetrations. All of those feathers are laying over top of one another nicely. Again, scale them wider, and we get a completely redistribution. But again, they're still not penetrating one another. They're still all behaving very, very accurately and smoothly. So Jonah just did an incredible job with just all of the possible scenarios that could come up when you're dealing with an effect like this. And then the last one that is pretty sweet is the auto bend. So if I park it right there, I'm going to select these three feathers, this guy, and this guy. Oh, let me grab that guy again. And let me open up their property page again for their feathers. There's this tool here called Auto Bender, this checkbox. Watch what happens when it's unchecked. Look, now I got a very hard seam right there. We almost get like a right angle. So now these feathers are colliding into the other feathers, and that sucks. Who wants that? Click that, and it automatically fixes that for you just using Well, as Jonah described some trigonometry, he's like, oh, I just use a little trigonometry and this. So watch his video if you want to really know what's going on there, but apparently that's some trigonometry. So that's all good. Geez, there's so much cool stuff in here. You can put a little bit of rotation on there. So if you want to just give those a little bit of noise so they're not all perfectly consistent, all sorts of stuff is in there. Of course, there's bending, which you can bend the feathers. Just such an awesome rig. I mean, so much thought went into all the possible scenarios that could happen. And again, everything is living on a point cloud. Everything is generated through ice. So these are this is the logic for that tree. Again, Jonah does a better job on his website going through some of these nodes. But again, cool stuff from my friends at PsyOps. So I want to thank them. And I got 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to say thank you very much. It's my last demo of the show. Hope you've all enjoyed SIGGRAPH.